Yeah, like C.J. Stroud to go over 217.5 passing yards. It was that on Caesars earlier today. I'm seeing it closer to 223 on most sports books, but I still love it in this range. Stroud has showed the ability to attack defenses vertically down the field throughout the entire season. And just because the New York Jets defense, we think he's going to go way under what he's been doing consistently. I would say that if this was a balanced offense, but it's not. The Houston Texans don't really run the football. They lean on C.J. Stroud consistently. That is the way they move the ball. So really like him to go over this total. When you look at the New York Jets in this game, I think they're going to come out firing on all cylinders. Zach Wilson is much better than Tim Boyle. He's much better than anything they have right now outside of Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what Aaron Rodgers with a torn Achilles or Zach Wilson. That would be an interesting comparison there. But Zach Wilson should have opportunities to throw the ball down the field against this Houston Texans team, which actually helps C.J. Stroud go over his total because it's going to force Houston to score points if the Jets can actually find the end zone a little bit more. So if that's the case, I really like Stroud over this total. He's thrown for at least 274 in each of his past 5 games. He has three 300-yard performances in that stretch and also a 470-yard performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The opponents aren't the best. They're not like the Jets secondary, but if he can even do 220, 230, he still goes over this total. And I think that's very realistic with how Houston runs their offense, even against a team as talented as the New York Jets in the secondary. Well, the thing about Tommy DeVito is like he has taken New York by storm right now. He is the reason the New York Giants are having somewhat of a successful season. They're not in the win-loss column, but at least the social media team can build some content around Tommy DeVito. We're seeing him, do the Italian taste test and everything. It's been awesome to watch. He's got his own beer line now. Like everything is going for Tommy DeVito. So some guys have it and other guys don't. That's what I'll say. You look at a guy like Tim Boyle coming in for the New York Jets, like just doesn't have it, right? Tommy DeVito is an undrafted guy, but he seems to have it. He's good enough to at least be a backup at this league, and he's played well when he's been in this season, thrown into the fire, and he's actually come out on the other side and played pretty well. 2-1 as a starter. He's gone over this line 2 times. He didn't go over against the Cowboys. I don't expect him to go over against the Cowboys. 171.5 passing yards against them would be very tough to do for a guy making his first NFL start. But he did go over this line against the New England Patriots defense. Very good. He's also been really efficient when it comes to throwing touchdowns. 6 touchdowns, just 1 interception in the past 3 games. When you look at Green Bay, they're 30th in total team yards allowed, according to coldhardfootballfacts.com. They're going to give up plays through the air. And I think in this spot, the New York Giants are probably going to be playing from behind. I'm not saying they're going to be playing from behind to a point like as a 6.5-point underdog. I think they can keep this game relatively close. But there's going to be times where they got to press and throw the football down the field. And that means Tommy DeVito is going to go over his passing total here. Another thing that he's done really well, find Saquon Barkley out of the backfield. He's also been efficient in the intermediate passing game. He's shown the ability to get chunk plays down the field. He has a 40-plus yard completion in each of his past 2 games. I think 171.5 is just a little too low here in a game where they're probably playing from behind. And Green Bay does have some holes in that secondary at times. So I think this is a good spot for Tommy Chicken Cutlets, whatever they're calling in the Big Apple. Yeah, I'll say this. First off, Deebo Samuel, pop off king. You are amazing. He talked a lot of trash against the Eagles. He came out and he backed it up. He said, James Bradberry, you are trash. He went out and he proved it. And that's exactly what teams haven't been able to do against the Eagles this season. They haven't been able to break through, right? Philadelphia has a very talented offense with Jalen Hurts. They have guys, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, players that can score points. But when it comes down to it, when you play a team of equal or better magnitude, you're going to have a tough time playing from behind. And Philadelphia couldn't do it. They couldn't get that big stop on defense that they needed last week to get the Eagles to have an offensive chance to win the game. So when I look at this game coming up, it's a bad matchup for Philadelphia. You got to go on the road to Dallas. The Cowboys have not lost at home in 14 games. They're playing really well in Arlington. And on top of that, Dak Prescott's playing some of the best football we've seen in his entire career right now, in line to win the MVP. I don't know if he's going to be able to get it over Brock Purdy the way he's playing. But Dak Prescott is playing really, really good. And when you look at this Philadelphia Eagles team, they are one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. But I can't sit here and say they're going to win the Super Bowl when they have these numbers. You ready for this, Greg? They're 30th defensive passer rating, 24th in total team yards allowed, and 24th in bendability, according to coldhardfootballfacts.com. Bendability is a stat that measures how efficient a team is in stopping offenses, how much they make offenses work for their points. The Eagles don't make offenses work very hard to score points right now, and that's a problem. So even though you have Jalen Hurts and you have a guy that can play from behind and an offense that's been pretty magical this season. I just can't sit here and say I'm going to take 3.5 points. This line's already moved up. I see it could get up to 4, which is how well this Dallas team is playing and the mismatch with the Eagles secondary and Dak Prescott. So we talk about the Cowboys and Eagles game. This game, magnitude-wise, is just as big. This is for first place in the NFC South right now. The Falcons and Desmond Ridder tried to lose their first game to Tampa Bay. Desmond Ridder was fumbling through the end zone, and they still won the game, surprisingly. But this Tampa Bay team right now is playing a lot better than they were earlier in the season. The biggest thing I've seen with them, they found a run game with Rachaad White. Rachaad White was working hard to get 2.7 yards per carry earlier in the season. He's had an 100-yard rushing game against the Colts. He had an 84 rushing yard game against the Panthers. That's very impressive considering how bad this offensive line was early in the season. Him averaging over 4 yards per carry is monumental. Like, throw a party, Tampa Bay. Congratulations. That's something I didn't think was going to happen. The Falcons have the 7th best defense in points allowed per game. That's another surprising stat, too. I don't look at Atlanta and think they would have the best defense, one of the best defenses, but they do here. I still like the Buccaneers in this spot. I think the matchup is favorable for them. Overall, they have the better team. Desmond Ridder is a huge handicap for this team. He's completed 44% of his passes against the Jets last week, 4.5 yards per completion. Tampa Bay is not a great defense, but I still think they can neutralize Desmond Ridder enough if they keep their run game going to control clock and find a way to win this game and be tied for first place in the NFC South.